Greetings and welcome to Paint Here Now. I am Will Parody and this is Painting with Art for Truth. We are going to do a really fun lesson today, as you can see by this exciting piece of paper that we have ready to go. And it is exciting. This is a great surface. You look at something, I don't even like to call it blank, but a ready surface. You know you're about to put some paint on it. It's exciting. So we're going to have some fun today. We're going to talk about warm colors. We're going to continue our basic talks. This is lesson number 3 in our beginning painting color mixing lessons. So today we're going to talk about warm colors, and we're also going to continue to talk about mixing complementary colors and the grays and browns that you get from mixing the 3 primary colors and the 3 secondary colors together with some white. And we'll show how we can use those as warm and cool colors as well, and we'll see how those properties transfer. So it's going to be exciting, so I'm glad you're here with us. I'll show you what we have. This is what we're painting with. It's acrylic paint. I like to use acrylic paint. Any brand will do. And each brand might have a different quality or different attitudes, shall we say, with the ways that the colors interact. I like to use an old ice cube tray. They're very recyclable, easy to clean out. The paint will peel right off. And then I'll use those in some of the thicker paintings that I do. So anyways, we have our basic colors. We have yellow, red, blue, green, orange, and purple. And there's white in there. And we have a couple different blues and greens and so on. So we'll be using paint like that, just basic acrylic paints. Here we just have an old glass that we use, and couple of brushes. Can be any kind of brush, really. I'm using a brush that's a little straighter and flatter, although they've been worn, and so they have different kinds of ends, but that's okay. We don't need perfect brushes for great edges and great work for this. Your finger will do for this exercise, but I recommend a brush. So anyways, without further ado, let's get to painting, looking at some color and having some fun. All right, we are back. We are going to start here. Just a quick review I'll do kind of in the corner. Right up here. Red. Which is one of the primary colors. And orange. One of the secondary colors. Yellow. Now you'll notice something that all of these colors have in common. We have red and yellow, the primary, and you mix them together and you get the secondary orange. You'll see one of the things that they have in common is that they look like they're fire. Which essentially, they're warm colors. They're the colors that you use to describe things that are warm or that actually literally can give you a warm feel. Raise your blood pressure a little bit and that kind of thing. There's a reason there's not a lot of big, bright, bold, red, orange colored paintings, I would think, in like heart surgeons' offices. They would entice people, excite them. They can be used in so many different ways, very beautifully, and in conjunction with and harmony with cool colors. And we'll show you how we can mix those in different ways. We're going to be focusing on ideas of the warm and cool. So then we have green, another secondary color. Oops. Now, I said, when I showed you the materials, I showed the paint and the brushes and the water. It's good to have something to wipe your brush on. I use my clothing. It's just what I do. You can or cannot use that if you will. But it's good to have something. It does not come out of clothing. Not really. And then blue. Blue and yellow make green, and then we have red and blue coming together to make purple. Make a nice big purple dot here, since it's sort of how the way this circle ended up. And it looks cool like that. and then we still keep certain connections that we can show you here. So, in fact, this is what we're going to do. Just a little bit on this purple. It's so dark, we're going to lighten it up a little so we can just get a slightly better sense of it and what it is. Oh, all right, now that's nice. Why not? And we'll get to that. So, it almost looks like we have a maybe something in the sky, the shape of a sun or a body or something, or a few of them even, depending on how you want to look at it, and some water. I mean, it could be a start for a piece. Or land, it could be anything. This is how the imagination can work, with a few scant lines and forms, and then you can build from there. So that's a lot of how we approach painting here. We don't show you, oh, this is an image, and if you want to paint something that looks just like this is how you do it in this way. That's not the approach that we use here. We want you to play around with color and form and line and find the thing you're going to paint from there. Don't have an idea in mind first, except that you want to paint and you want to have continue to grow a relationship with painting and the act of it. So we'll continue here. Last time we talked about the complementary colors, which the best line here, but it'll work. We have red and green, orange and blue, purple and yellow. And they connect and they basically neutralize each other. They become gray or brown, and one will recede the other kind of into the background. They make also very beautiful, bold colors, great colors to use for plant life, fungus life, earth life, rocks, etc., 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 people. So much of the stuff of life. And we're going to be using a lot of those colors today. And a big part of what we're doing today is we're going to be mixing these browns and grays from the complements, kind of like we did last time. But we're going to have an emphasis on warm and cool grays and cool colors interacting. So without further ado, and I'm going to do some mixing just right here on the canvas. Okay, we're going to just have some fun. We're going to make a few different red marks here, okay? The red will stay wet long enough. And then we're going to add some green, which is cool, in varying capacities. We're even going to change up on a few of them and just see what happens. So when we mix these together on here, even though, actually, let's stop for a second. This looks cool, doesn't it? In and of itself. You can almost have like a red and green eye kind of thing here. Maybe one going here. This side. Maybe there could be something this way, a face. I'm thinking like a snake or a crocodile, or it could be anything. It could be just a bunch of dots. But it has a neat form and shape and contrast between the colors here that pops out. That's really nice. And yet they bring into each other somehow. It's green and red, so it's really interesting. So anyways, we're going to mix, and we're going to get some various brown and gray colors here. Really nice stuff. Neat. We're going to add a little bit of red, I think, too. Let's see this one. Just change it up a little bit. And let's see here. Just making marks. Don't copy what I'm doing if you're painting along with us here. You're discovering with your own kind of sense of flow of a canvas and imagination, however developed it might be. Every single human being has some sense of rhythm, some sense of art. I believe that 100%. And I'm here to try to help you bring it out to whatever capacity you wish. So by showing you a few things that I think would really help you. So that have been shown to me, that I'm very grateful for. So we're mixing these greens and grays, getting these interesting colors, okay? Some are a little warm, kind of, like maroonish warm, but mostly we've got some nice greenish colors. We're going to add a little bit of more red to some of them, like this, maybe to half of it. Ooh, that's good. That's a lot of red. And this green is a darker green with a good amount of blue base. So that's why we're seeing it almost turning to a purple too here, because there's actually a decent amount of blue in that green. So now what we'll do to bring out some more of this, we're going to add some white, and then you can really see what some of these colors are and can do, because you see a greater range of their tones and how they are brought out with these other colors. So especially white, when you add white to something, it doesn't necessarily brighten it. In fact, in a way, it takes some of the color away and some of its pureness. But what it can do is it can really bring out such a wide range of the color's qualities and capacities. So like we mix, look at that. Look how these sort of reddish muddy colors became sand, rock colors, or a mountain in a distance with some clouds. Oh, that's kind of cool. Look at this. You got this mountain in the distance, and then maybe there's some clouds coming up. A little bit more white here, just to bring that out, and they're covering it, and then you can have a whole like landscape over here and bring in trees and stuff. So anyway, see just the different things you can do by painting these little lines and forms and just playing with color, and you can discover all these different ways that you can paint things. Anyways, let's continue here. See, so some really neat colors. Now, some of these are a little bit more, as we add the white, this tends to be a little bit warm. You can see a more warm and reddish tone. And this one certainly, but again, they're a little bit all more on the neutral side and very much grays. But you can see a definite contrast between this greener gray and this redder gray. Can you see that? The warm and cool, even in gray. And so you can use that if you have, for example, this is something that's, well, there's a lot of warm in here. So then if we add something that's a little bit cooler, let's see if we can mix something up. They dry real fast. So doing this kind of painting where you have, you're painting, especially on paper, which will suck up a lot of the paint. You got to work pretty quickly before your little paint examples dry here. But that's okay, we can do that. So we add a little bit more of this. You can see this is more of a green, but you can definitely see the warm and cool difference here. But you can see that green just pop off of this. It's really neat. And this could, of course, become, you know, more of a tree, depending on how I wanted to, and then bring it down, you know, whatnot. But that's not the point of this. So keep adding a little bit more, get more of a gray, and then you can look how dark that is over here. It's almost like a black. It's beautiful. Look at this wonderful color. And you can see, especially when the white comes into it, how green it really is. It's a green gray, and you can see, I know we're getting crowded over here, but you can see the difference of this green gray. Green gray, Dr. Green Gray, for you X-Men people out there. Anyways, we have a wide range of colors, warm and cool, kind of bouncing off each other from just mixing these colors. So let's add a little bit, have some fun. We're going to add an orangey gray to this. See the difference or see what it does. It's, oh, so cool looking. And even the difference between painting something horizontal and vertical. Now these could be definitely like trees growing in some, you know, rocky, sandy plain, or it could be any number of things. And again, I bring those points up, if it could be this or that, just to show you that it's paint, while it works very well as its own form, and I'm a big fan of abstract painting. You can get all kinds of ideas to things that you might like to paint if that's what you want to do. From looking at things this way. So adding a little bit, see that warm, adding some pure orange really helps to bring out some of the warmth of this and the cool of that. And it really bounces off of both in its own way because of the differences. When you add the green and the red together, again, you get something that's a little bit more brown, neutral, goes in the back. So when you add a pure orange color to it, it pops. Oh, look at that. Look how cool that looks. And so the warm on the cool, again, makes a difference. Yellow, again, with a warmer color. So we're going to mix up with just what we have on our brush, muddying things out a little bit, we're going to do because yellow and orange together with green make a real interesting kind of a brownish gray color as well. Brownish gray green, depending on how much you want to put in. So there's a good amount of orange here, which is good. We want that. We're going to add a little bit of light green. Yeah, there we go. See, it's still got the warm. It's still got the orange and yellow, but the green brings out, makes it a little bit more of a brown. Brings it back some. Again, a very useful color. Add some white. Much fun we can have with this. Almost like a face. Eye, nose, mouth. Kind of a smile. Look, boom, just like that. And if I wanted to bring it out, well, we can do that. But we'll get there. See? Just the fun of painting and seeing the different colors. So now we have a real interesting warm brown color here, which can be sand. Again, it made this little golem-y face. Almost looks like Jabba the Hutt. Oh no, he's holding a thermal detonator. Yes, I think some of you might have fun with that. Anyway, so we got Jabba making these interesting colors and stuff over here. Add a little bit of this brighter warm to the warm. And we're going to add a little bit of red too. I want to show you. I almost don't want to cover Jabba over here, but oh no, okay. But you can just see, even if it's gray, it's not like fiery, but it definitely has a sense of warmth. Of course, the more I add these fiery type colors, add a little bit of white, changes it, because it makes dulls it some. It makes it not seem like pure flame. If you add some white to make smoke, if you are actually trying to use warm colors to make fire, a little bit of white and grays, darker cook, because smoke is never just pure white. There's some mixes. And it's a really interesting color. If you mix it too much in with the fire, then the fire gets muddy. Looks pink and like this, rather than bold and fire. But if we add a little bit more on top, we can see at least that whatever we have here, this form, really pops out the bolder colors that we are putting on top of it. So even as an abstraction, you can see just a lot of warmth, but layers of warmth and gray. So there's looking at some warm colors. Okay, we could do this forever. So I'm going to move along here real quick but then I'm going to add some cool on top and look at the difference that makes all of a sudden. Again, it's really neat the way, especially the interaction with the oranges and then the bright reds with those. It's so again, all the fun that we can have with these colors. I want to cover a little bit more space here. Let's see what we can do. So we're going to make some orange and blue. I'm going to start with some basic mixing of the complements to get the interesting gray browns that we can get from them. And again, you can see differences between this and this, subtle as it might be, but look at how cool. If you can see that close there, this reddish brick and then this brownish, more blue-brown. Of course, we add some white. Look how, oh yeah. Gray elements come out, so it's like both brown and gray. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful stuff. Now this, to me, it's a bit more on the neutral side. I guess with this orange over here, it brings out its warmth. Add a little bit of these blue streaks, it brings out its blue. But we're starting to get to a point where it's more, not so much warm or cool, more just an even gray, a neutral kind of a gray. It bounces to some warmth, and it bounces to some cool. One could look at and say if they had to pick, it might be on the warm side. In fact, if that was the case, we'll add just a little bit of blue and see if that changes it up a little bit here. And it certainly does. In fact, it definitely makes, you can even see the difference, how much more neutral this is, adding just a touch more of the light blue. And that does bring out the warmth a lot. So that's one thing. If you're not even sure about how something warm or cool, put something next to it that you know is either pretty neutral or a strong contrast to this, and see what happens. So a lot of things you can do here. So you can see, again, warms come in, you add a little cool for the gray. Now we can do something really drastic, add some, and you can see how the cools come up on the warms. Blend it in a little bit and just see what happens. Real neat stuff. And so with this little bit of blue, it's bluer over here, and then we get to a little bit norm neutral, then we're back to a bit warmth here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add some greens and some cool colors in here. And we're just going to see how they, because of course they're going to mix in a little bit on the wet paint as we add like this. But we're going to see how they pop. You can see what making this a little bit more on the cool side will do for the overall feeling of this segment of the piece. And then let's just, whoops, it's always nice to mix some blue and purple together. Makes a neat color. Makes even mixing these greens and purples in some, because it does look almost watery now, like we could have some type of a water river scene with some muddy water perhaps, or some sand. We can definitely do that kind of thing. It's just about feeling a flow and a rhythm, especially if you are trying to paint something that is like water, which is great with cool colors. There's usually a bounce or a rhythm. It's never really solid. There's all kinds of colors changing and moving around in water, pretty much no matter what, unless it's the stillest of ponds. And even then, there's whatever reflections. So it becomes a whole different thing. So anyways, doing that kind of a thing. You can see the cool colors next to some, really do some nice work with the warmer browns underneath it. Really cool stuff. It can just be a total abstraction even. And so we're going to mix. So right now we are going to have a lot of fun. We're going to mix a bunch of stuff up real quick. Well, as quick as we can. Part of the fun of painting is doing stuff like this sometimes, being able to just go and not worry about it, go for a feel, mix some different colors. And when we're doing this, of course, we're interacting with the colors that are already there as well as what we have, and we're making various grays, very, very light grays, but we have more warmish grays here. Very much on the warm side, warm orange side. We want to make them even warmer. Add a little bit of red there. Didn't keep much of the old one to show a difference, but there's a little bit you can still see and mixed in there. And again, the way it pops up on the cool, it's really neat. And then make it a little bit cooler, and whoa, a lot cooler. So I'm mixing some blues and yellows and then purple together a bit to get an interesting, cool color. It's not always about the grays, and even it is a bit of a gray. It's more subdued with the white and the yellow in there. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow. It's going to make it much greener. But that's okay because we add a little bit of purple to that, which is a complement of yellow. And then we're going to get back to, oh, look at this beautiful, beautiful gray color here. Very cool, but very gray, and in some cases very neutral. We're going to look at what that looks like with some white in it, bringing out some of its qualities. Really cool stuff. How much this could be cloud, sky, water. Again, all of these things of the imagination. Stones, rocks, mountains. Building color. Shadow colors. There's animals this color. There's bugs. So many wonderful things. This is just such a deep color of nature. It's a gray. It's a beautiful, cool gray. You can see its different qualities there. And now, if we add, dare I, a little bit of orange up here. Orange is always an interesting color to use with gray. My mentor, Tom Blodgett, I asked him once if I was painting with orange. Wait, I was painting with grays, I think it was, and I asked him about it, and he said use orange. Or was it the other way around? I think it was actually 2 times, now that I think about it, where there was an emphasis on the orange and then an emphasis on the gray. But it was something that, see, look how cool that is. This kind of pale, not really pale, but a darker orange, a little more subdued and brown, but still orange, and then this even more so. The way it just comes into this cooler color. It's really, and it brings out a contrast. And you can see, even though this, it literally kind of pales and compares into a bolder color that we might put right on top. Which is also neat. There's layers here. You can see how it still is in definite contrast to this. Now this also brings the contrast level to a new game, and this becomes more in the middle. We're going to add some of this red to some things. We're going to see, oh, what happens if we add some of this kind of bold red to this cool. What's happened to our little river over here, but that's okay. Sharks in the water, oh no. That's not what we're trying to go for here. So yeah, add some yellows. And we're just going to see what happens when we play with putting the warms on top of these cools and these different grays. Definitely interested in mixing some of that in here. A little white just to see, or a fair amount of white. Let's see, there we go. So we have mixed some purple and yellow, blue and orange, and red and green, the complements to get our different grays. And varying degrees of how they can be cool or warm, and how that can be used with bolder, warm and cool colors. Isn't that a neat combination? It's pale bluish gray with some green. And if we add a little bit of yellow on the top, it's interesting because yellow, not unlike purple, it's the way they it's cool how they work together, does hinge on the border of cool and warm, as does purple, red and blue, and then to make the purple, and then, when you mix the blue and the yellow together, you get the green, blue, and the red, the warm. Anyways, you see what I'm getting at. So it is almost a little bit more on the can go both ways side. And if you add it to something like this with these cools, it fits in nicely. It brings in an aquatic feeling, but it also does add it would add a little bit more warmth for sure than if you were just using white as highlights or that kind of thing. In fact, you can see that over here. They might pop, but it's very different. So anyways, they have that. But then if you add a little bit, start to add some very specific or definitive warms, the yellows become more cool almost. They cling a little bit more with the blue and the green with which they've mixed. They contrast very well, more so than they would by themselves with this orange. So, very fun to experiment with these things. Oh, see this, our cool dark gray here that we made. Look at that red mark on it. That sticks out real nice, bold. I do like to usually try to add something that's light or yellow on top, or white or something, to see what happens with even another sense of contrast. And that brings out the warmth for sure. And if we want to bring out more of this warmth on this cool, dark background, we will add a little bit of orange, especially this bright orange. Now, what happens if under here, then we bring in a little bit more sense of cool? Now, the warm and cool contrast is bold enough again, and then this background is acting more as an agent to the cool and a contrast to the warm. It becomes very interesting the way you can play around with color and see these things happen and change. Nice, cool mix. I'm going to make a nice little cool color, like a little bit like we did earlier, but with more of a flow. Just make this sort of a pattern here, sort of a space. Look at that, the white, oh, it's so nice mixed in there with the blues and the purple. Look at this little section, that's just awesome. Is it an accident? No. Is it on purpose? No. It's called the serendipity of composition. Or should I say, most people know about Bob Ross and the idea of the happy accident. Well, there's something about it's almost more. It's happy. Why is it happy? Just because you don't want it to be bad? Well, it's happy because it offers a new opportunity for growth and for looking at the piece and what it can possibly be. So it's part of that unconscious, conscious composition that is a real big part, I think, of our connection to and the processes of life. The composing of elements. Again, I don't really want to say of accident, but elements of serendipity, the magic of finding beauty in that which you don't intend. Purpose, even, in that which you don't intend. So, we're getting almost philosophical here. Art will do that. Oh, look at the way this cool pale green kind of pops up in spots over here. Neat. Things are starting to have more of a form and a being and purpose. It's interesting. There's a nice cool greenish gray here. And here is some bold neon orange and regular orange. So cool. We are getting wrapped up in this painting. So on that note, look at that though. Look how cool this is. No pun intended. Adding just these different cool colors. Now there's an interesting example of how the yellow does end up warming this up some. It almost brings up some of the warm in the purple. Because it's so cool and it's so blue, purple, green, white. And you add this yellow, it brings in something more than just water, more than just the coolness of water. There's something like that has captured the sun, like photosynthesis. It's just beautiful. It's part of life. Wonderful. So here we have these examples of all these different things that you can do, mixing warm and cools together in various ways. And don't forget that there are grays that are also very much affected by the idea of warm and cool. Or should I say cool and warm. Not a bad little fun time here. So, all right. So here you have it. Warms, cools, and more look at what we can do with the complementary colors and mixing grays, browns, and all of these other neat colors. I almost wanted to do more browns. We're going to just do a few more. Warm browns as opposed to all these cool grays here. Oh, see? That's a bit red. All right. Let's see. We're great. Nice. Browns. Different kinds of warmish Brown, warming it up. So often, too, the difference between a brown and a gray is how warm or cool it is. There's very little difference sometimes. Essentially, I mean, they have, well, there's difference. There's a lot of intertwine and interaction. But brown and gray, oh, this is interesting. All kinds of different colors in here. Look at these different kinds of browns. Darken it a little bit without making it too cool. Too cool. Yeah, that keeps some brown in, adding that red. That keeps it for sure. Then you can see the difference. One's lighter and darker. This one's a little cooler even, but it's still warm. It's still brown. All right, that comes pretty close to satisfying the amount of brown I wanted on this piece, I think. Just, again, different examples of it. Ooh, almost a gray there. Oh, now we are getting jiggy with it. That's actually, this is a cool brown. Got gray, definite gray. From that green, that's beautiful though. And then we add a little yellow, good amount of orange, and we brown that right up. Boom, boom, boom. Look at that, from gray to brown, boom, just a few warm colors in there. And not the super warm red per se either, which will definitely warm it and darken it. You can see that. We are still making some interesting kinds of browns. Nothing wrong with just continuing to experiment. Ooh, that's an interesting muddyish brown. That's a greener brown. The brown is always greener on the other side of the brush, I guess. Ha 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 ha. Just blue, just to get some variations. And all the different kinds of browns you can make, the different colors. And the reason I want to get all these browns in, and I'm continuing to paint and paint, and we're extending a little bit beyond what we expected on this episode, is because they are just so useful everywhere, and it just adds such a variety, and you can get so many of them from so many different combinations, and none of them is exactly alike, so it makes a great way to just continue to put some interest, variety, composition, and just movement into your pieces. Continuing to have your colors interact and try all these different things. And you can see I'm trying to keep sort of a flow here. You know, there's a curve that kind of connects everything. And as you're doing these paintings, I suggest, even when we're doing these exercises, I suggest you try to keep a sense of a rhythm or a sense of a flow in what you're doing. So, on that note, it looks pretty cool. I'm going to call it good for now. I might even work on, we'll see. But I think that works pretty good. Don't forget to clean your brushes. What I do, I really didn't this time. Because we're making a lot of mud, so I just let my palette get a little bit muddy. And that's all right, because we're using it all for this. We'll show you how to keep a cleaner palette. I'll try to in later episodes. But I'll wipe my brush on the bottom of my container a little bit and bang it out some. Wipe some excess on the sides and try it again, and then get it off with my cloth and or clothing. And if you have a lot of paint on the furrow of your brush, you want to get that off and clean. So as you continue to wipe your brush, you don't continue to get paint on it. There. Keep that like that. So much fun. I hope you're having fun. I hope you have fun watching this. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you are painting yourself and that you're growing and learning through your own action and interaction with art, because that's truly what it's about. Allow yourself to grow, allow yourself to feel, and keep on making art. Thank you so much for your eyes, ears, and time.